boom, boom, boom. Bring it to me. Bring it to me. There we go. Now we're live. All right. Welcome to another Zen Rose Garden Pro Tip Series. Coming up in this video. Did you really just...
No,
okay.
I was thumbs upping. Not. Right. Oh, I guess you took it that way.
Coming up in this video, difference between empathy and sympathy versus empathy. This is part of our empath playlist, How to Be a Better Empath. You can find the full playlist link down below. So if you are just getting to know us.
I'm Heather.
And I'm David.
I'm ZenRoseGarden.com.
Natasha says, love your shirts. Yeah. Absolutely. So we've got relapse over here. We've got therapy over here. When you've had enough of this, you want more of that. When you've had enough of that, you want more of this.
Is anybody from Vegas in the house? Raise your hand. No, but this is like one of our favorite afternoon spots to go to. In the daytime, it is a restaurant downtown on Fremont Street called Therapy. And at night, it becomes a nightclub called The Relapse.
Yep.
Okay, this is the second video on this series on the gift of empathy, which I really like to call it the gift of empathy because it really, really is. Like we talked about, it's what makes you human.
Right.
And so in the last video, we outlined.
Take it away.
The three basic types of empathy: emotional and somatic empathy,
one bunch,
and cognitive empathy, and compassionate empathy.
Right. Today, we're going to talk about how to toggle from that emotional and somatic empathy into cognitive empathy instead of getting stuck and spinning out into the rabbit hole of a sustained, wounded, emotional empathy. So I know there are plenty of people out there that get stuck in that, but there is a way out.
Yes. So if you remember from the last video, and if you haven't watched it, go back because you'll understand a little bit more. If you remember from the last video that according to psychology, emotional empathy is the most primal state of empathy that begins when we are babies.
Boom. And for a deeper look, be sure to check that out in the last video. The link is in the description for the whole playlist. But here's the thing.
When we read some of these, you might be an empath if lists, and you know the ones I'm talking about. Right. You might be an empath if you can't leave the house, if you get all of these things.
Here's your sign.
Oh. The symptoms sound like, yes, you are in a heightened emotional and empathy experience.
But you are stuck in it.
Right, and unable to move to the next stage of empathy, which we don't talk about that much in pop spiritual culture. It's called cognitive empathy. So you're supposed to move from that initial emotional.
I feel you.
Cognitive.
To I understand you.
I feel you. I think you. I think you.
Yeah. Okay. So cognitive empathy needs to happen to diffuse the bomb of emotional and somatic empathy, or the person is going to get stuck in a low-grade state of fight or flight, trying to process emotions that are probably not theirs.
So this is what we're going to talk about today. I know you guys need this. So
let us know in the comments if you need this. If you can use this information, let us know in the comments, or you know somebody.
Well, I've been stuck in this state too, so I'm not throwing stones. I'm not throwing stones. So now that we have totally flipped the pancake over, we want to know, what is one practice that helps you get out of
an emotional shock that isn't yours?
Like you have run into something unexpected, somebody else's emotion that throws you off center. Drop your best tip in the comments. Just one.
Right.
One tip. Just the
all the tips. All the
Marianne's
tips.
Like, oh my God, I stuck right now.
I stuck right now.
We're gonna help you with
Yes,
that.
We're going to help you right now. All right. You guys are nuts. Absolutely. We are absolutely nuts. All of the nuts. Except for the ones that she's allergic to.
Yeah.
Not those nuts.
I can't
the ones she's allergic. She can't even, it's not even in her brain. She's so allergic. Anyway, today we're going to talk about cognitive empathy. And Marianne, I guarantee you that this video just today is going to help you.
Yes.
So let us know in the comments any tips that you have for getting out of that overextension or that overwhelm.
Yeah.
Natasha says 100% need this, washing my hands and face in cold water to let go of empathy, energy right away. Right. That is a really, really good one. I don't like nuts. Hashtag lesbo for life. Boom, diggy. I don't like nuts. I like nuts.
Pistachios, no way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
today we're going to talk about cognitive empathy because that's the thing that's going to get you out of your emotional somatic empathy. Okay, so cognitive empathy This is not what most of us would think of as empathy, but it is the second stage of empathy that diffuses the big shock of the initial emotional empathic hit. Okay.
Which is all that it is really meant
Right.
to be, right? An initial hit. Okay, I get it. It delivers information.
And this applies to your mediumship training as well, because if you don't get this under control, you're not very effective as a psychic, and intuitive, a sensitive, a medium.
Right. Or a human.
Or a human, but especially when you get into sensations you can't understand because you don't see them.
So the switch into cognitive empathy gives us perspective.
Yes.
It releases us from over connecting and leads us into the next appropriate action.
And full confession right here. One of the reasons we're teaching this one today is because we want to prep you guys that are coming into Zen Ed Academy, because the more you can understand this process, the faster you learn once you start learning the hardcore shit we got in there, like the advanced mediumship courses and all of that, because you're not getting in your way. And, you know, it just helps.
Yes, it helps.
Not that you have to be perfect, but it does help to understand what that switch is.
If you can get some of this information before you get into Zen Ed Academy, it's going to make what you get in there and how you consume it a lot easier for you.
Well, and even if you never do, it helps lifing.
Yes, it helps lifing.
But you can't get there if you don't stop,
drop, and take stock. Stop, drop, and take stock
of the emotion you are feeling. Ironically, you do this in an unemotional, logical way with your brain. So it's still considered empathy in psychology. It's just a switch over.
So make no mistake, though, emotional empathy is absolutely vital for especially the caring professions like doctors, nurses, in order to be able to respond appropriately with the cognitive and finally compassionate empathy. Without it, we would just be Vulcans with only a logical empathy. That's not logical, Captain. You gotta have the feels too.
So Spock was not a robot. He was not a robot. This is not
Danger, Will Robinson.
This is not Lost in Space. Okay, here's my thought. So emotional empathy is your Klingon.
Yep.
Okay. Your inner Klingon brain. Cognitive empathy is your inner Vulcan brain. And I think compassionate empathy is finally your human brain. So it goes Klingon, Vulcan, human, but we get stuck in the Klingon. I think a lot of times because we don't talk about the other two styles of empathy in this spiritual community. So it's just, we only think it's the one thing, and
you don't know that there's a way out.
But there is.
Or that there's another phase or state of mind to be in, or state of empathy to be in even.
Right.
So Medium Star says, is this my feelings or someone else's? If it's not mine, I send it back to our beautiful Mother Earth and recycle it into love and light.
I think that's incredible.
Jenny from the block says, toggle time. Loving the wordplay there. Absolutely. We love words and we love to play with them. I play with my words all day, sometimes even in public.
Wow. Okay. So
I totally understood that, David. Absolutely.
I'm glad you did. Sometimes I don't. So.
Yes. And I love Natasha. I love the hands and face in cold water. That's a really good way to kind of shock your system back into your logical, so you get out of the over emotional. So let's talk a little bit more about cognitive empathy. So cognitive empathy is seeing somebody else's perspective and understanding that it is their story.
And that's hard to do when we're stuck in the emotional somatic empathy, which is just the here's what I'm feeling. It's a fast way to let you know what someone else is feeling. It is the part of empathy you need to develop if you are any kind of a negotiator.
Right. If you are a counselor, a healer, a doctor, a diplomat,
or a mother, or anyone who ever wants to ask for a raise. Ever.
Can I get a raise?
So it is the second stage of empathy, where you detach from the emotional hit and put yourself in someone's shoes without needing
to engage with their emotions.
Yes, it does not fit the definition of empathy as you might understand it as feeling with a person, because it is more the rational, logical process before you get back to balanced emotion.
It is empathy by thought, not by feeling, and you need it. Actually, you need it all in balance.
So if you are a person who is easily stuck in emotional empathy, probably because you don't know there's a gear shift, but there is a gear shift. You will need to intentionally shift gears into cognitive empathy for a while until it becomes natural, to detach, think, and move into compassionate empathy, which is where you want to go. which is action with sympathy.
Right.
So it's different from the empathy that the emotional empathy from the beginning, which is like, I'm so feeling with this person.
Right.
This is sympathy, which is I'm feeling for you.
Yes.
Not
getting caught up
with you.
Right. So this place may seem foreign to the overly sensitive person at first.
Yes.
They may consider this next step under emotional and cold.
You're a Vulcan for a minute, remember?
Absolutely. So switching gears might bring up a fear that if they are not emotional enough or aren't tapped in enough, then they could be seen as unsympathetic and uncaring. Could be tied into self-worth. And they may even reject the idea, choosing to stay in that emotional empathy.
Oh, well, here's my sometimes you get addicted to the emotion too, right? I mean,
emotions can be addictive.
Right. And we can get addicted to the emotions if we're like, that's our only way of feeling empathy and connecting. I mean, we want to connect. We're social creatures. And sometimes it's kind of ass backwards because we connect and then disconnect and we connect and disconnect. So we don't want to get stuck there because this can get muddy and most of the time causes a person to misread a situation because they begin to mix up what their emotions are with the emotions of the other.
They may become overwhelmed and be unable to respond because they are stuck in this empathic overload or empathy overload.
And like I said, we want you to be badasses.
We want you to not be overloaded or overwhelmed by other people's emotions because you got enough to deal with your own emotions, right?
It's the gift of empathy. This is the gift of empathy that makes us human, but it does have stages for us to make it useful. So
we want to help you guys get back to the gift of it.
Good emotional self-control is what helps healing pros avoid burnout from empathizing too much. And we get this question all the time. How do you guys have so much energy after working with clients all week and dealing with dinner? And I'm like,
because we're not attached.
You got to go through, you got to like,
but we're not cold either.
Right. So the only downside to this is if a healing pro might become hardened because they're overstressed, they stop caring, burned out, which might result from overprotection against empathy overload. So you're like trying too hard not to overload, and in the meantime you're overloading.
So that comes from when you're too hard or too cold or too whatever, that comes from basically just not taking enough vacations, enough breaks, enough happy hours at therapy. Or relapse.
Or simply
not working on your shit.
So compassionate empathy is the third stage, and it is the appropriate end result of the 3 stages of empathy.
So this is more normal, balanced empathy outside of what spiritual pop culture believes. And it is the final stage of empathy that is more synonymous with healthy sympathy.
Because you want to get back to a healthy sympathy, which we talked about in the last video is different from empathy. Empathy is feeling with a person, and that's that initial hit of emotional and somatic empathy.
I actually feel your story.
I actually am feeling all of the things. And then you go to cognitive and you're understanding all of the things. And then you get to compassionate empathy, which is sympathy, healthy sympathy with action. Okay.
So the empath who is gifted with more sensitivity in emotional and somatic empathy can follow this pattern to make the most out of the gift.
So first, you feel someone's pain, emotional empathy. Second, cognitive empathy, detach and analyze.
Third, take a sympathetic action to help after you shift out of the glass case of somebody else's emotion.
That was cute. I liked that.
Glass case of emotion. I'm stuck.
So now you're in a peaceful place of feeling concern and sympathy for someone
without overwhelm, but with the right action to help.
All right. So it's a little bit different. You're not drowning in the emotion. And really, when you've got someone in distress,
you don't need to be drowning with them.
Yeah. This is the empathy that people in distress need from the gifted empath like you. Compassionate empathy.
Boom. We have the answer.
Because it's like they're already in distress. They don't need you to jump in with them. But what happens when we're stuck in the emotional part is that we either jump in with them and then we're like thinking that we're helping, but we're really not because they're in distress enough. Now they feel like they got to help you. Or you just run the other way because it's too heavy.
Right. So you're drowning out there, can't swim. Me neither. Let me jump in and help you.
So it's just one of those funny things we do.
Yeah.
It's the human brain, So
Right.
in compassionate empathy, we find the right balance
Of logic and emotion.
Klingon, Vulcan, human.
Yes, right. So we can feel another's pain as if it was happening to us without getting lost in it.
And therefore, we can express the appropriate amount of sympathy.
Yep. And that's what you get when you get to the compassionate empathy. With the initial emotional empathy diffused, we regain control of our own personal emotions. We can bring reason to the situation. We can make better decisions and provide the appropriate support if and when it's needed.
Well, and that's even if there's support. I mean, if
Yeah.
we have emotional empathy just leaving the house and going out to
You can't
hang
support
out
anybody.
at dinner, it may not even be about supporting someone. It may be just about, I see all these people are having all kinds of feelings, but I'm sitting here having
An amazing,
dinner with my friends. So you increase your awareness without attaching your energy. So that balanced place is what we're going to talk about in the next video. Some super secret
special science stuff you don't want to miss.
Because we are going to bring you the brain science behind this, because in the last 5-10 years, they've really started studying exactly what happens in the brain when that emotional empathic experience happens.
Marianne says, I tend to get angry because I will see the solution, but most of the time they don't want it.
No,
And Marianne, honestly, that may be you overly attached to providing a solution for them and them having to take it because you've got the right answer.
Well,
it's not the right answer if they're not ready for it.
And that's the tough part, because people really have to fall on their asses. You might have the right answer that they might get to eventually, but a lot of times people have to fall 3 or 4 times until they're ready to really integrate that answer.
And that answer may not come from you. Even though it's the right answer for them, you may not be the right person to deliver it. So have more faith in the universal process, and that their guides, their spirits, and the universe is going to provide their answer for them when they need it, when they're ready for it. It doesn't have to come from you. Grab that share link and send this video on over. And don't forget to smack that like button.
I felt the breeze on that.
Smack that like button and subscribe.
So poll time. We want to know what you think.
Let's see what you think. Is it possible to feel someone's emotions without being overwhelmed? Is that possible? Can you be empathic without overload? Let us know yes or no, and why, if you're feeling sassy.
I like it when you guys feel sassy. So let's talk about some solutions. Okay. So one thing I wanted to address is I want to go back to Marianne's comment.
Yes.
Because so many times as sensitives, you work on fine-tuning your awareness and kind of seeing a range of things. And we can have a lot of different things come to us. And I know for me, it's been a challenge because I've stepped on my own toes a few times.
And landmines.
Yeah, but it's so much about releasing and trusting. Sometimes for me, I've not respected another person's free will and let it bother me too much
because they didn't listen.
So then I'm holding on to anger or resentment or frustration, and now their decision is affecting me and I'm giving my power away. So once I realized I was doing that, I went, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
I'm just giving you the information.
I'm just like, whatever. And then boom, 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 detach.
Yeah. That's a really good thing to be aware of, is that, you know what, if you let yourself be thrown sideways because of somebody else's willingness or unwillingness to listen to the answer that you provide, then you're holding yourself captive to their process.
Well, so here's the fun thing I found with that, because once I made the switch over to like respect other people's free will and realize that I'm the one kind of like holding on to my stuff that's really their stuff, it actually became a lot more fun, because either I watched them get it or I watched them not and went, okay, that was fun.
All right. So we want to know, how do you stop, drop, and change empathic gears to manage emotions?
So you've got to start programming it, because if you are a person who is very gifted in that emotional and somatic empathy,
going to take a little while to shift those gears. So you have to do it intentionally first.
So you got to start programming it with some simple self-regulation and self-control exercises.
Your mind is massively, massively efficient, and it's a massively efficient and complex computer.
So it's really best to choose one thing that's easy to interrupt your process.
Yes.
It's best to choose something that works for you and is easy to do.
If you have any suggestions, let us know in the comments. If there's anybody in Zen Academy and you have suggestions, maybe from the Academy, drop them in the comments.
What I suggest is something a lot more simple than I think I see people doing out there, like put on big giant angel wings and put a crystal grid around your house. I love crystals, but a lot of times we make it overly complex. Do some, if you feel yourself bombarded with the emotional empathy and
or
you're
over-attached.
One big deep breath. Ask,
is it mine or is it not mine?
Or just say, it's not mine, step back, detach, and that kind of will trigger that cognitive empathy.
Another one is what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours, especially if you're working with clients, okay? And when you're done with a session, I mean, when you're in a session, yes, you're going to be very deep with people. Okay, Jenny from the block says, I've simplified it saying, insert name here, is not me.
And
so those, George is not me.
Right. So I think another one that I like recently is big yawn and stretch. Like,
yes.
And it's amazing because yawning will relax your body instantly and sort of detach you. And that's a really simple thing to do. But I think it will help you program that shift from emotional empathy into cognitive empathy really fast if you choose a simple
exercise that works for you.
Something you can do in public that works for you. And if you use that same one that works for you, when you feel it, after a while, you'll just automatically shift.
And you won't even have to think about it.
It'll be like, oh, boom, there it is. And then you'll understand how to take action.
What you're doing is you're basically giving yourself just enough time to start thinking about it. Okay. To start getting your higher brain functions clicked in. Because when you're in that immediate reaction or response to somebody else's emotions.
It's your primal response.
Exactly. So you're acting like a little animal and you're reacting without clear awareness.
You're feeding it.
So give yourself enough time, enough space. And all it takes is one simple breath. Bring your attention to your breathing, one deep breath. What's mine is mine. What's not is not. Let it go. It's not mine, not my shit.
I think I heard you.
That's one.
Yeah.
That's one that I use often or did until it became more natural.
I thought I heard you say what's wine is wine.
What's wine is wine.
That always works for me. So
that's in a minute.
Side note, when you work on strengthening your empathy chain, because that's called the empathy chain, right? Klingon, Vulcan, human.
Yeah. Helene says, I'm a sympathy yawner. Now I'm running.
It will make the work you do in your psychic and mediumship development so much easier. Trust me. And that's, like I said, there's selfish reasons for doing this, because when you come to Zen Academy, you're going to
be ready to hit the ground running without being overwhelmed.
So
when you understand the function of the mystical parts of your brain, it becomes a hell of a lot easier to access it.
So your brain does work a certain way. And when you understand it, it's so much easier.
So go ahead.
We are living in a new age.
It's a new age. Welcome to the new age.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where we actually do know how this stuff works and what parts of your mind are firing on your brain.
You just have to strip away all of the old superstitious mumbo jumbo, grow your brain. And if you like this video, smack that like button for more live hangouts, behind the scenes secrets, and mind hacking pro tips.
Be sure to subscribe
and spank that bell.
I'm just gonna
right down there.
I need more space. You're like
to turn notifications on.
Drunk Italian man with the things going on. So you are the first to know.
So you will never have to remember
when we drop a new video.
Drop a new video. Drop a new video.
Or go live.
And we know that time is a valuable and precious resource. And the fact that you guys are choosing to spend that with us, we absolutely honor and appreciate that. But most importantly, that you're here to level up your mind, level up your gifts, your skills, and your business, and take everything to a whole new level. We honor and appreciate that even more. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next video over here. Or over here.
Are you doing that on purpose? Over here.
Or over here. No, it's over here.
We love you guys, though. Seriously, thank you guys for hanging out with us every day.
We'll see you in the next video.
See you in the next video.